Good morning and welcome to KidNuz. I'm Kim. Today is Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. And we begin with potentially eye-opening news for teens who like to vent about their day on social media. The Supreme Court will today hear the free speech case of a Pennsylvania teenager who let loose on Snapchat after being cut from varsity cheer. Brandy Levy's colorfully worded post was screen-grabbed by another student and shown to coaches who then promptly booted her off JV. At issue, whether schools can punish kids for things they say off campus, including on social media. Those who agree with school consequences point to the need to prevent online bullying. Those who disagree say it's the job of parents, not educators, to teach civility. As one lawyer put it, what this case is really about is how virtual reality for young people is no longer virtual. It simply is reality. A decision is expected in June. Fully vaccinated Americans can show their faces again, at least outdoors. The CDC announced yesterday that those who've gotten 2 shots of Moderna or Pfizer or 1 of J&J can go mask-free in fresh air, whether alone, with family, or in small groups. The rule in the skies, meantime, continues to be mask on, and Alaska Airlines isn't making exceptions, not even for its home state politicians. Senator Laura Reinbold is now banned from flying the carrier for refusing to follow the rules. The punishment is no slap on the wrist. Alaska operates the only regular flight between her home north of Anchorage and the state capital. Getting her privilege pulled meant she had to drive more than 14 hours, wind through Canada, and take a ferry to make it to Juneau in time for Senate business on Monday. Results from the U.S. Census are in, and they show exactly why the survey is so important. The total population tops 331 million people, but the bigger news is where we all live and what that means for representation in Congress. Since 2010, enough people moved to Texas to give it 2 more seats in the House of Representatives, while 5 others, Colorado, Florida, Montana, North Carolina, and Oregon, each added 1 seat. Losing residents and a representative, Illinois, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and, for the first time ever, California. We all know the world feels a little upside down these days, but now comes word that it might also be just a little bit topsy-turvy. According to a study published in Geophysical Research Letters, enough water has melted off glaciers to knock the Earth off its axis, creating a shift in the imaginary line connecting the North and South poles. Since 1980, each pole has reportedly moved about 13 feet. Rising seas from climate change is only one factor, though. Ocean currents and the pumping of groundwater throw off the world's balance, too. In a helpful analogy, Swedish climate scientist Vincent Humphrey compared the world to a spinning top. As water moves from place to place, the top has to lean, maybe even wobble. Dr. Humphrey told The Guardian that the shift hasn't noticeably changed daily life yet, but could change the length of a day by milliseconds. In other KidNuz notes, tonight, President Biden gives his first speech to a joint session of Congress, and it'll be historically different in many ways. Because of the pandemic, the address will be limited to 200 people, which means most members won't get to attend. There will also be no hugs and handshakes when he enters, and for the first time ever, 2 women will sit behind him. Vice President Kamala Harris, right alongside Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. And not since Babe Ruth has baseball's home run leader started a game as a pitcher. But that's what Angels two-way player Shohei Ohtani did Monday night when he took the mound while simultaneously leading the league with 7 home runs. It's a feat unmatched since June 13, 1921. There are false alarms, and there are false alarms that happen to astronauts hurtling through space at 17,000 miles an hour. The latter is a bit more unnerving and happened to the 4 SpaceX astronauts who launched last Friday. Hours after takeoff came word from NASA that a piece of space junk was moving fast and close, and they needed to suit up, sit down, and prepare for possible impact. After all that excitement, relief. Either the galactic garbage passed at a further distance than expected, or didn't exist at all. Space debris is a growing problem for those headed skyward. According to the European Space Agency, there are 128 million objects larger than a millimeter in orbit today. That's it for Kid News this morning. Now our Kid News quiz. The cheerleaders' case before the Supreme Court today is about what? The free speech rights of students off campus and online. According to one study, what has knocked Earth off its axis? The water melting from glaciers. What is happening in Washington, D.C. tonight? President Biden addresses a joint session of Congress. Why is Angels pitcher Shohei Ohtani in the news? He's the first home run leader since Babe Ruth to start a game as a pitcher. In One for the Road, some busy beavers are taking the blame for taking down an entire town's internet. It happened in Canada, where an overzealous beaver colony used its chompers on what was an underground cable line. The result left 900 rural British Columbia residents without service for a day and a half. In a statement, the provider, TELUS Mobility, said evidence was found lying on top of a nearby dam. The tenacious timber lovers likely burrowed along the creek, surfacing the city's cable and chewing it in multiple spots. Before we go, it's time to say hello to our Kid News classrooms, starting with Julianne Reed at Duff Elementary in Arlington, Texas. Mrs. Howell and the Blue and Purple at Cragmont in Schaumburg, Illinois. Mrs. Stevens at District 741, Paynesville Area Elementary in Paynesville, Minnesota. Mrs. Carlson and the Red and Black at Lemoore Elementary in Lemoore, North Dakota. And Mrs. Green and her students showing Tiger Pride at West Newton in West Newton, Indiana. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll see you back here for more Kid News tomorrow morning.